I think we are ready to get started.
Okay. So you can
So,
take it away,
Coach,
Coach.
Yeah, thanks, Craig. Thanks, Elizabeth. And hey, welcome everybody tonight. I got to say, it's been a full year since I've been connected to LinkedIn local Austin group. Yeah, my job was that COVID casualty, back in 2020. And so I'd worked in the fitness industry for nearly 2 decades. And, all of a sudden it's like, what's the next step? And so in that journey, you start networking. And I met some great people like Elizabeth and Craig, and I'm thankful for being in this networking group. And it's probably the one networking group I've stayed with, right? So you try to join a lot when you're looking for shifts and changes. And out of the COVID casualty, the COVID crisis, I did that favorite proverbial word. I pivoted. Yeah, I think we've kind of overused that word, but I made a pivot and I got into coaching, leadership, life, business for business professionals and the coaching space. And I started a coaching platform called GrowthTime. And so really good things can come out of adversity. And there's always the best growth comes through adversity. So really today, I just want to start off by getting us connected because that's why you're here. So I know there's a lot of screens right now that are muted and blanked out, but hey, you showed up tonight for a reason and a purpose. So I'm going to believe you want to participate. And so with that, I want you to open up your chat. Oh, there's some visuals. I want you to open up your chat and I want you to tell me and the team, what is the best thing that's happened to you in the last 7 days? So what are you excited about that's happened in the last 7 days? Could be life-based, could be leadership, could be business, but what are you excited about that happened in the last 7 days? So pop open that chat and hey, show up today, show up strong. A live music gig for the first time in 2 years. All right, Gerald, let's go, baby. That's fantastic. I know.
Yeah, actually played two 2 weekends in a row. So it's very cool.
Fantastic. What kind of music, Gerald?
This is a 80s cover band. So a lot of stuff from early to, I guess, covering the whole decade, but probably clustered between 82 and 87.
Great. Okay, who else? Heard my son might be getting engaged. Uh-oh, Craig. Oh, the wedding bells are ringing. High school reunion. That's fantastic. That's a fun season. I have 2 interviews this week and my puppy gets her stitches out on Thursday. Okay, Nicole, that's a win-win. 2 interviews set up. Puppy's getting healthy and whole. And then Caleb saw some live music, booked a trip to CO. Kathy's going to Colorado. Better get that before that snow goes, that's for sure. Well, look, welcome to tonight. All right, so we are talking about growth time. If you've jumped on tonight, how many people, and if you can put it in the chat, if you're going video, you can give me a horns up. I'm a tremendous Texas fan. How many people actually showed up today to want growth in their life? Do you want growth? Or did you just show up tonight just to go through the motions? I see a thumbs up from Kathy, see a few horns. So good, because the reality is we all need growth, but is it easy? No. Do we want to do the work sometimes? No. But tonight, I'm going to challenge you. I'm a coach, I'm a speaker, yahoo rah. But really, what I want to do is think about how to help you move forward a little bit in your mission, your journey, or your goals. And so tonight, I want you to think about this. Are you ready to get fed? Are you ready for some food? And are you ready to eat something that's going to help you grow and move you forward an inch, a foot, a mile, or maybe a whole infinity and beyond? So here's the thing. Low morale, stress, anxiety, low motivation, low performance, turnover in your business and the people you manage or lead, people disengaged, frustrated. These are all the symptoms, kind of like that pharmaceutical list at the bottom of a commercial, when it lists all the symptoms that may occur. And those are them: stress, anxiety, disengagement, frustration, relationship fractured, emotional fatigue. Those are the symptoms that happen when you are not creating winning leadership that powers your peeps. Yeah, your peeps. So who are your peeps? Peeps are the people you lead. the people you manage, it's the people you oversee. Your peeps might even just be you. See, we're all created, as you know, and gifted to lead. We influence, we inspire people. So regardless if you got the title or tag, you are a leader. So embrace it. Realize that when you embrace leadership and you embrace the need to grow in leadership, you're going to start to see and create winning teams, power those peeps, and get rid of all those nasty symptoms. So there I was, sitting in front of Ashley. Now, Ashley had fire in her eyes. Her arms were crossed, gripped like Loctite sealed. She actually, I think, had her lips clenched so tight, I could see a drip of blood coming down. She was mad and irate and upset with good reason. The hardest part was, it was all my fault. My fault. You see, I was leading a team. I ran a fitness facility, had 60 employees and 4 managers that I led. And Ashley was under one of them. His name, we'll preserve it for the record, but we'll go with his name was Derek. And I managed Derek, and Ashley was furious. And I was in a very uncomfortable conversation because I chose comfortable decisions. You see, I managed Derek. He was my responsibility. And I saw some of those symptoms within his team and within himself. Stress, emotional fatigue, disengagement, cycle of turnover. But yet, I didn't confront it. I didn't take enough action. I kind of hoped things would shift. I hoped things would change. I kind of hoped if I just gave enough feedback, things would settle down and be okay. Was I wrong? And because I chose that comfortable path, I was looking at Ashley. I was scared because I was now uncomfortable. So if you had to call a timeout and you're a coach, you'd realize that I broke the fundamental principle of leadership, the very fundamental principle of leadership that creates power for your peeps. Now I'm going to ask, does anyone want to take a stab on what that principle I violated to find myself in that situation? Type into the chat if you want to open up the mic. What principle did I violate? I think the chat takes a couple seconds to filter in. All right, it'll probably filter in as we go. It could be a little slow. Could be that Windows software, Elizabeth. But hey, look, I will share with you the fundamental principle I violated was ownership. I didn't take ownership of my team, of their well-being, of their performance. I created no power inside Ashley and that team member. And you know what? The performance suffered. Results weren't good. That wasn't creating winner leadership. And I think about as a coach and as a leader and an influence, which you are you managing and leading your people and yourself through that powerful principle of ownership? It's fundamental. It's 101. Because when we own things, when we take authority, we take control of the situation, we're less likely to see ourselves in those uncomfortable spots. But yet, ownership's not easy, but yet it's the foundational fundamental principle. And not just that, when you peel back that onion, what's behind principles? Every coach, every leader to power your peeps needs to peel back principles and understand mindsets. So years later, I'm now running a big territory in the Austin, St. Louis market of fitness centers. And I have a manager, Brian, under me. And I meet with Brian because his team's underperforming. And our goal is to get him in the growth time and create winning leadership to power his peeps. Now, Brian, he was a character. He was persuasive, great at sales, very spoke well, very fluent, articulate. I mean, he fit in as a politician. And in fact, I used to call him the mayor of Austin. And in that, he would have these conversations. And when things got a little tight, when I started to bring in this concept of ownership, it's interesting. Brian started showing me shiny little objects. Hey, look over here how well this is going. Hey, look, this is going really good over here. Yeah, that dreaded response in leadership when you're trying to create ownership of deflecting, of deferring, of not fully owning the situation, the case, the goal, the task. Yeah, Brian was doing that. And in that conversation, he talked about the competition was tough. The budgets were challenging. He couldn't help the team get to those expectations. They weren't fired up. They didn't have all the tools and resources they needed. The company's systems weren't operating right. Boy, I heard all those excuses, and you know what that's like in leadership. I called the ifs and buts. If the ifs and buts were beer and nuts, yeah, we'd have quite that party. But unfortunately, that party doesn't create winning leadership. It doesn't bring power to your peeps. So realizing that there was an ownership gap and not want to be at fault for not providing that great environment, I talked to Brian about mindset. Yeah, every coach needs principles. Every leader needs mindsets they need to talk to and work through in order to create winning leadership and drive performance. So we had a mindset issue. So I challenged Brian. I was tired of the excuses. And isn't that the case with ownership? What's behind not taking ownership? It's the mindset of excuses. We excuse away a problem. We excuse away a situation. Hey, if it's a fractured or broken relationship and we're experiencing the pain of that symptoms, we just say, whatever, they had it coming to them. But we find excuses for ourselves and we create excuses on why other people can't do the work, all because we're not driving performance or creating winning leadership teams. And yeah, you're right. Those excuses don't empower those peeps. They don't drive them forward to see the performance and change you want. So in that situation, I said, time out, Brian. We need to shift our mindset. Nothing else matters right now, but you've got to change the mindset of you and your team. Otherwise, you will never create winning leadership in your life, in your team, in your structure. And the way to do that is you've got to be solution-based. You've got to own solutions to the problem, consistently look for solutions and be in the action if you're going to solve the current problem you're facing today. Now, Brian took him a little bit. He still wanted to play with these shiny objects and not really address the ownership of his mindset. And I had to clear the air and be strong in that conversation. But you know, being in that place, your mindset and the mindset you bring to your leadership is going to determine the direction, the course of your ship, where you head. Solution-based. So I'll share with you recently, I'm at a volleyball game, got a 14-year-old daughter, and she plays high school volleyball. And I met one of the parents at the game, and we began to have a conversation over the course of different games. He was a former athlete. I was a former athlete. You can't tell by me sitting down, but I'm 6'9" and played high school, college, and pro basketball. But that being the case, we began to fellowship. He understood what I did. He understood it was a coaching space. And I even started to try to encourage him further along in his journey. And then in that, he shared with me the story of how he built this great fitness facility and gym for his daughter, who's a high school volleyball player. Well, wouldn't you know, I asked him, hey, how is your fitness going and how do workouts going? Right there, it shifted. He said, man, I haven't worked out in 3 years. I lost my brother 3 years ago, and I just decided not to do it. I don't feel it anymore. Now that hit home for a moment, because there are those times when you need to be empathetic and understand there's a reason why ownership isn't happening. There's a disappointment, a frustration, a pain, where you have not taken ownership or you're not allowing others to take ownership. That became a challenge. But then I thought as I left that conversation, that was 3 years ago. 3 years ago, he's walked into this space of not fully owning his own health and well-being. What does that have to do with leadership? It shows up. It's a principle that when you violate in your personal life, it shows up in your leadership. If you're not healthy, if you're not strong, if you're not in a good framework, do you think you're leading your people with power? You're not. You think you're leading your family with power? You're not. Excuses become that framework where it just prevents us from taking ownership. And the longer we allow it, the longer we're going to suffer. And the more of those symptoms you're going to see show up in your life and in the people you lead. That stress, anxiety, low motivation, morale, turnover, fractured relationships, emotional fatigue. You know the symptoms. Big Pharma makes big money on those symptoms. But in that, there's got to be a shift where we put marks and our leadership say, no more excuses, and I take full ownership. And I've got to shift my mindset to do that. Our minds are strong, our minds are powerful. And what we set our minds to becomes the framework for how we're going to channel and move forward within ourselves and within our leadership. So I want to share with you, because this week I saw the story of Zion Clark. Just love that name, Zion. Maybe it's my basketball glory days and Zion Williamson and his great athletic prowess. But hey, look, the story of Zion Clark, I'm going to actually post up and share with you, because I hope it'll inspire you as much as it inspired me, that whatever you're facing, whatever you're going through, the mindset of no excuses, being solution-based, will help you grab ownership in your personal life and your leadership. So I'm going to pop this open real quick. Give me a second here. Maybe some of you saw this already.
The best guys in the world, and I compete against the best guys in the world. And now I'm going to beat the best guys in the world. And that's just how I see it. I posted a video on my Instagram, and I was running real fast. Like I did about 25 yards in only like 3-4 seconds. And they were just like, wow. And they were like, we think you could set a record. And I was like, sure, if you want me to try it. Guinness World Records is there. Everybody's there. Former Olympians, former world record holders are all there supporting me, hyping me up, getting me going. And then I just took off, man. And the crazy thing was, my first one was actually faster than my second one. I was moving so fast that I slid into it and ducked under the sensor. So I had to go do it again. I was expecting, I was like, y'all don't understand. Like, I'm going to be under 5 seconds, maybe even under 4. And I called it. The first thing I said, the second I was done, I looked at all, but I said, I told you. What I said? I said, I told you exactly what I was about to do, and I just did it. To be a Guinness World Record title holder, I'm #1. You know, there's nobody faster than me right now. I'm the fastest man on their hands in the world. But at the same time, it also means that my family's winning, my town's winning, and my support group's winning, because without them, I wouldn't be here doing this for you guys.
I'm hoping you found that as bit as inspirational as I did. And what's interesting, if you check out the rest of the video, they show him working out, and on the back, he's got the tagline tattooed in his back, no excuses. So I want you to pause for a minute, and I want you to reflect, because if you truly are looking for something to shift or change, or you want some growth in your life, personal, leadership, business, where do you need to take radical ownership? Is it within you? Maybe something popped in your brain, that thought, that habit, that decision, that relationship, where you haven't fully taken complete radical ownership of it. And I want you to think about, are you willing to be brave? Are you willing to come up with no excuses and do what it takes to move out of excuses for why and the what's and the ifs and the buts, and move into a solution-based mindset and get into action? Coach leaders, they need to have principles to influence and create winning teams. They need to have mindsets that begin to shift the way people think to drive a winning culture and empower their people. Now, I'll jump back real quick, and I will finish the story of Miss Ashley. So with Miss Ashley, once I really came to grips with what it took to own and create ownership as a leader, well, things shifted. I had those really difficult conversations with Derek, her boss. I really put the grind of accountability to his performance, attitude, and his mindset. And sure enough, unfortunately or fortunately, we had to part ways. but that changed the dynamic of that team. It empowered people like Ashley and made people safe and secure in their environment. And all those symptoms started to disappear, and it created winning leadership. Now, before I close and land this plane, I would like to invite you to, if you'd like, if you're looking for more growth time in your life, in your season, Craig had mentioned it. I run a platform called GrowthTime. Go to mygrowthtime.com. And I really offer a free 52-week journey, week by week, taking you through what I call the growth zones of life and leadership. And so there's 3 fundamental growth zones of life that we need to master and self-master to walk and be impactful as great 21st century leaders. And then there's 3 fundamental growth zones of leadership. But hey, it's a 52 free week journey. Come check it out. Here's the thought I want to land the plane on, because in reality, if you have principles that create winning leadership, if you attack the root of mindsets that cause the lack of ownership, you need a play. Every coach, every leader needs a play. If you're in the Super Bowl, if you're in the NBA Finals, and there's 3 seconds left on the clock, you better have a play to run. My experience is typically people, even well-seasoned leaders, when you ask what's your play to create ownership, they kind of give you a blank look. Maybe they intuitively do some of it, but they don't have a replicable play they could teach others to say, hey, here's how you establish ownership. Here's how you create ownership. So I'm going to give you my coach's play for the night. Hopefully you can take it, put it into practice. So here's a question I want to ask you. If your car broke down on the highway, if it ran out of gas, if the engine went out, who do you call? Who do you call? You call AAA. It's the power that comes. There it is. Madeline typed that one in. I think the Windows software just caught up on my end. But hey, you call AAA, of course. So I'm going to share with you a simple framework of a play that I've run for years, taught it for years, and became very impactful to help others learn how to create and establish ownership. Okay, here we go.
Lessons in don't really have it because she is, and
I think so. Okie dokie. Let me go about this a different way. There probably should be a drum roll at this point. Anyone's got a drum roll for me? When you have those delays, those pauses, those technical issues, you kind of just need a drum roll sometimes. There we go. Okay, there's your drum roll. I call it the AAA power play. And it's a circle. Really, it's like a wheel. And if you can nail each component of this, getting your team aligned, dealing and addressing with the attitude and beliefs, and then moving into action, you're going to create ownership within that relationship, within the people you lead, and you're going to provide power. Because the short of it is, you're going to run into obstacles as a leader. You have kids, you have family, whoever you lead in your business, you're going to have breakdowns. And what's going to shift it, what's going to change it, is you as a leader providing an effective play to say, all right, we can keep grumbling and complaining, pointing and blaming fingers, coming up with excuses, or we could start to run a play on how we are going to move forward and get that car back on the road. That's the point of AAA. Get back moving in a positive direction. So alignment, attitude, and action. Those are your 3 buzzwords that I want you to think about. And the better you are at creating alignment, the better you are at evaluating and creating through attitudes and beliefs that would restrict it, and the more effective strategic actions you take, hey, that car's going to get up, you're going to move forward, the vision's going to be clear, and you're going to see some great gains. I'll bring this to life. So I have 3 kids, 20-year-old, 16-year-old, and almost a 15-year-old. And I've coached club basketball sports for nearly 10 years. And many of the parallels of leadership and being an effective leader that apply in my corporate culture also apply to the basketball coaching world. And yet here I was coaching my son, my oldest son, Jacob. And in this journey, I noticed something very unique happening as we went through the game. Every mistake, every failure, everything that went wrong, he would stare at me at the sideline. He would twitch. It was like a twitch. He would just start looking at me. And he would just kind of be looking at me saying, hey, is it okay? Is everything all right? And you can imagine, as a coach, as a father, there is a breakdown here. This boy is not empowered. And even leadership at a young age could teach me he didn't have the power to go out and play his best game. He couldn't keep looking at coach after every mistake, wondering if he was going to be taken out of the game, wondering if he was going to find approval from his coach or his father. So I had to shift. I had to create ownership, shift mindsets, and create a play to get him through and to get myself through the situation. So after the game, I pulled him to the side and I said, hey, let's work on alignment. Here is what I'm seeing is happening. When you make mistakes, when things don't go well, you're constantly looking over at me and taking your eyes off your game. Pretty easy metaphor for life. The more we look at our failures, the less we're focused on the game in front of us. He agreed. I said, look, I think part of it is my ownership as a coach and even as a father, where I'm putting too much pressure on you to be that guy, to be the best player. And I'm a little harder on you than I think the other players in the team. You can imagine the sigh of relief when that came out. He is like, yes, that's exactly what's happening. And so we found alignment of where some of the problem was. And we thought, okay, what are the next steps we can align on going forward? And we began to work through a process. We began to get rid of some beliefs and attitudes that were restricting him from moving forward and me and my coaching experience with him. We talked about putting a different hat on. When I'm on the sideline, you've got to try to look at me not as that father, but as your coach. So you've got to make a disciplined decision that when you make mistakes, you have got to not look to the sideline. You've got to create an action plan that says, okay, I can't look to the sideline. I can't look at my failures. I can't look at my mistakes. And I can't look to my dad and my coach in that situation. And we worked through that cycle. We got alignment on what the issue was. We got alignment on why we needed to move forward. We broke through some attitude and some mindsets that we're going to need to clear the air. And then we got into action. And then week after week, we made progress. So it's kind of funny. You're talking about a story from at that time about a 12-year-old, 11-year-old kid and a coach. And I think, how true is that in leadership? How true does that principle still hold true, whether you're leading 500 people, whether you're leading one person, whether you're just trying to influence your brother or sister? Leadership, helping people empowered, empowering those peeps, you need an effective play. The more you can get aligned, the greater you can get through the attitude and the beliefs that may hinder you from moving forward. And the great action plans you can take are going to dictate your success. So that is kind of like some of the message of Growth Time I want to share with you tonight. It really is about somehow you taking and looking in your own journey and really reflecting on it. That person, that situation, where do I need to grab some ownership tonight? Do I see some of those symptoms happening in the people I lead? Are they fatigued? Are they drained? Are they stressed? Is there turnover in the business or people you lead? Are people disengaged? If you're experiencing those symptoms, see that low motivation, you've got to create a strategy to take ownership. And you got to get a mindset to be solution-based. And then you got to grab a play, the AAA play, to get that vision, to get that goal, to get that broken relationship back on track and moving forward in a direction that's positive, that's going to empower those peeps. So that's a mouthful. And I think I'm just out about my time. I plan to go 30 minutes. But what I'd love for you to do, and I know there's people that necessarily aren't on the video, but they're on the chat. I want you to think about that one situation. And I want you to think about a mindset that needs to shift. And I want you to think about, can you run that play this week? Can you run that play? Can you run that AAA? I tell you, perhaps it's just within you. that you need to align better with you. You need to align better with your values. You need to align better in your decision-making. You need to evaluate what beliefs, what mindsets are holding you back from moving forward. And then you've got to create an action plan this week. I'm not going to create excuses. I'm going to overcome. I'm going to achieve. I'm going to show up strong in my winning leadership style. I'm going to make an impact in the people I lead. So thank you for letting me share the message of growth time. I'm hoping it stirred. I'm hoping it shifted you. I'm hoping it made you question and think. Hopefully, as a coach, I pushed you forward a little bit. And with that, I know we want to get into some networking. And I'm going to kick it back over to you, Elizabeth. You've got that lovely
I think
background now.
first we might have some questions for you. Let's
Absolutely.
kick it out and see if what were the triple A's: action, accountability, and attitude? Was that what they were again?
Alignment,
Alignment. That was the other one.
attitude, and action. So let's try this one more time.
So I was trying to remember what the 3 A's were. Align, action, and attitude. Okay. Because I didn't write them down in time.
I popped it back up there. Hopefully that worked well. I wasn't kind of sure why
it did.
It did
It's right
not.
there.
Perfect.
Thank you.
For sure, Elizabeth. And my experience with it's like a wheel. Like if you want to get more effective in your leadership, the clearer you are in each part of that process of AAA, the better you're going to be at creating empowerment to your team, your people, your family, your leadership. If you're very vague in how to get alignment and what the goal and task or what you're trying to achieve, hey, then you're probably not going to get there.
We really appreciate you coming back, Coach.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.